Hey there, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans. Welcome to another episode of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. After Show on AfterBuzz TV. Tonight, we are talking about Season 4, Episode 14, The Man Behind The Sheild. We're going to see who can do the best monologue in this show. Is it the Superior or Coulson? Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, I always get so pumped when I hear this. How are you?
It's good music.
It's so good. Who does the orchestration for this show? They are top notch. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I'd have to look up who did it exactly.
Someone let us know because they do great work. But hello there, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day. We love this show.
Happy Valentine's Day, not Valentine's Day. If you say Valentine's Day, I do not love you.
Does anyone say Valentine's Day?
I know some people who do.
That's not... No,
Enemies.
that's not even close to right.
They're my enemies.
Not anymore. They said it, and now they're dead.
No, not dead. Disappeared.
They've just been replaced with an artificial intelligence.
That can pronounce words properly.
Yep.
Yes.
That's its only thing.
And that way, the world is not plunged into chaos.
Yep.
Well, hello, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans. Welcome to another episode of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. After Show on AfterBuzz TV. Let's go ahead and introduce our fantastic panel. To my left, Jesse. That far left is Jesse Klein. Sorry, normally Jesse's right here.
Yep.
I
to
know,
my left is Zach
I know we
Wilson.
look like we could potentially be LMDs of each other, but we're not the same person, Megan.
You were here last week, Jesse, right here. To my left directly.
Sometimes I switch it up.
Well, Zach, where can people find you?
You can find me at JessKlein1 on Twitter and Instagram.
And to his left, Jesse Klein.
Yeah, you can find me at that Zach Wilson.
Thoroughly confused everyone.
Yeah.
We
Or
apologize.
whatever.
It is hot as blazes in the studio
Our
right
engineer
now.
Josh doesn't even know what lower third to put up anymore. Everyone's very confused.
Yeah, the temperature is causing all of us to short circuit because we are not the regular Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. crew. We've all been replaced with LMDs.
Sure.
So hope that doesn't affect the show too badly. Bear with us.
We've got you guys live in the chat. Got you on the computer, internet. It's all working.
Indeed, and we are also going to be
Till
keeping.
Radcliffe takes it down.
Yeah, that's such a bummer. We are also going to be keeping an eye on the hashtag ABTVMarvel. And I'm Megan Salinas. You guys can tweet at me at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. Sadly, Tehran could not join us tonight, but we will persevere without him tonight. So I wanted to ask you guys, because I had a really good time with this episode, but it sounds like we're having some issues with this arc as a whole.
All right, there's some fun
So
stuff.
let's just get that out of the way so we can get to the fun stuff.
Positivity first. There's a lot of great moments in this episode.
Oh, absolutely.
Make a compliment sandwich.
You're very pretty, but you can be a little passive aggressive.
Yeah.
But you're so smart.
Did you have an okay Valentine's Day, Megan?
Oh, there is a bottle of wine waiting for me when I get home.
Okay.
I really love the fight between Daisy and the Superior.
Yep.
Oh, so good.
I think that the stuff with the dialogue between the two, the exchanges.
Yeah.
The
I thought was
monologuing.
great. No, not even monologue, because they're talking to each other. So it's a dialogue. The dialoguing. But it was just, I really liked what they said there. I didn't love how sort of AI story by the numbers it's becoming in this story.
Zach and I were talking about it, and it's like, it feels like the Darkhold has now just become
A prop.
Just like something that explains why Ada is evil.
And also, it's just the Darkhold it wasn't used to instead of an AI, it's actually like a demon expressing itself as artificial intelligence. Yeah. It's just the explanation of how we got AI, basically. Or got AI to this level. It's effectively the same thing. It's filling the same void as Ultron and the Infinity Stone.
But it wasn't
needed except to just like further the plot line. And I wish they'd done more.
Yeah,
like something that powerful had much more potential than it was used for.
I don't think I'm as down on it as Zach is. I don't know how we can measure that. There's no way.
Is there
there's
a way
no
to
units.
quantify that?
There's no units of downness. No bummer units. But yeah, I think that a lot of potential for like some really cool storytelling if it's like a demonic robot instead of just regular. Like if every time we saw Ada, if like she was like expressing demonic things or like their framework stuff, like it had to like pierce the back of your neck and like spread spiders in your eyes.
No,
like
that's the last place I want spiders.
yeah, exactly. Like that, but that's a lot more interesting than like them just putting on headphones. like we could be in the framework right now.
Yeah.
It looks like we are. That being said, like the end of the episode, like I'm really looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah.
Compliment sandwich. Also, May and Coulson flashbacks.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's a great segue. Let's go ahead and talk about that flashback because I don't know about you guys, but cute, bubbly May is the best thing I have seen in a long time. And I'm not just talking about this show. I'm just talking about in general.
It's one of those things, like, I love when shows need to, like, de-age characters for like just like a couple scenes because like they obviously can't go into like crazy special effects.
Yeah.
So
we can't get
what
wet
did
on
they
this.
do here? They gave Coulson a little bit more hair on top.
And with women, it's always give them bangs.
Yeah,
it's always give them bangs no matter what. Bangs will take 10 years off you immediately.
But it's effective.
It is.
I don't
She
even
looks
know
so
how.
adorable with bangs.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, young May.
It's like she didn't have bangs when she was like the cavalry. Like,
Well,
That was much later.
that was,
well,
but still.
and we've seen her so I mean, she jokes around. She has a very sharp wit about her. But like she's been so stoic and so serious for so long because of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But like seeing the person she was before she and Andrew got married and before Bahrain, like it's really cool to see young, like, I don't know if she's fresh out of the academy, but she's definitely like in her prime right
like
now.
level 3 is what she was. So.
Yeah.
So she's climbing the ranks. And she's still having fun with the job, which is something that I feel like a lot of agents don't have after a while.
Yeah, I mean, you're a super spy. You're not supposed to have fun.
No. Complete side note. I felt real worried on behalf of Morales and Davies and nameless S.H.I.E.L.D. intern that we had in this episode because they all got lines and 2 out of 3 of them got names. I was just, one of them even got a joke here and there.
Davies got a joke. He got a labyrinth joke.
He got a labyrinth
He made a
reference.
David Bowie
and
reference.
I'm like, oh, this poor baby, he's gonna get killed. That was a side note.
Instead, maybe LMDs now.
They're gonna get killed by LMDs. It's gonna be so sad. They're gonna be our cannon fodder in the next episode. But back to May. We see her, you know, she's playfully teasing Coulson about this time they were undercover and just generally speaking, like, flirting with him. At one point, I'm pretty sure she was using the flashlight to check out his ass. I'm pretty sure that's what she was doing because it was nowhere near the door.
I didn't catch that. That's
I didn't
funny.
see that either, but I totally buy that the show would do that.
That's funny.
It's a real subtle, like, real fun thing to do.
But
and it's interesting to see that they were like flirting like this so early, and obviously it went away. But they're pretty upfront. Like, Phil was basically like, "Yeah, I want to go out with you, except that you're dating somebody right now." So, and she's like, "Yeah, I agree."
Yeah.
when that ends horribly, give me a call.
Listen, if this guy Andrew, if he turns into a blue monster that, you know, puts holes in people's chests,
And
if
then
he grows dreads or something, call me.
giant spikes.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that. I always feel bad whenever Andrew gets a name drop because I still feel bad about the way his storyline wrapped up. I'm like, I still call BS on that. Neither here nor there. But yeah, it's both really funny and really heartbreaking when she's like, he's a shrink. I don't think it's gonna work. I'm not super into him right now. Because they ended up being together and it did end it absolutely horribly. So that was kind of a bummer. But I loved the comment that she made of like, I go through men like tissue paper. And Coulson just immediately hops on, yeah.
That's what I heard.
So he's like, excuse me?
Oh, so
I don't use a lot of tissue paper.
You don't use tissues around? I think that's what she meant, like tissues.
Yeah, I don't use tissues.
What do you do when you're sick then?
Toilet paper.
Just not get sick?
Then I use tissue paper, but I get sick once a year.
Maybe, anyway, neither here nor there. I was going to try to make a joke out of that. I'm like, I got nothing. I'm not even going to try. But kind of a side part of this, because this was probably the most entertaining part of the episode, was just seeing these two younger agents flirt, and for Coulson's part, fumble over his words and generally like drop equipment because he's kind of flustered and everything like that.
Well, it's interesting because this is like I think Clark Gregg did a great job of seeing the difference between Iron Man 1 Phil Coulson versus Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Phil Coulson, and then going a little bit even further back from that.
Yeah.
Like, Coulson was sort of bumbly in the early Marvel movies. Like, he wasn't like a klutz per se, but he wasn't confident like super spy director of S.H.I.E.L.D. that we have now. So yeah, the younger Phil would absolutely be this like sort of like, I don't know, like just like
You know what I was kind of thinking? I was like, if this weren't the show that we were watching, if this was like a movie, this would be like the meet cute that these two spies have. Like,
Sure.
I would watch a romantic comedy about two spies having a meet cute, and then
there are a lot of movies like that.
Yeah,
none of them are doing.
Yeah, but like with these writers.
Oh, okay, yeah,
with
sure.
these writers,
Yeah.
I would watch that.
Nine-Tail Phoenix in the chat, just like, apparently Coulson is just bad with hands.
It's a good thing he gets that robot hand.
Yeah, with that robot hand, he could probably take that bra off in like 2 seconds flat.
Boom.
One
done.
try.
Probably uses the shield and can do it across the room.
He throws the laser shield like cat, like hits her in the back, falls off.
Yeah.
And then he just click and like lights
And the lights dim.
Guys, we'll write this fanfic for you and read it on live TV
No, we
if
won't. We're not
we
gonna
get
do
a
that.
certain subscriber.
Oh yeah. If we get
what's the next-
1,000 reviews,
How many are we at now?
We were at 6 something, right?
I'll find out. No, you know what? I'll set it low. When we get to iTunes, I'll have a reasonable,
Zach and
semi-reasonable goal.
Zach and I are comedy writers. We will write this
We will
fanfic,
read you our erotic shield fan fiction.
We said fan fiction.
but it will be erotic.
You guys were talking about the lights dimming and the music coming up. It's apparently going to be erotic.
That's not erotic. That's just life.
That's just how I roll. But I do want to.
Yeah, Josh,
again,
just go into my board and hit 7.
no off-topic button.
Or whatever's
So
on the top right.
talking.
Not that one. That's a different one.
Never mind.
Great.
So talking about this, there is another component of
Top
this
right.
particular mission and this particular flashback sequence. It's to further explain the Superior's grudge against Coulson, which I don't know how I feel about. I feel like adding on the murdered comrades is a little forced. I feel like it wasn't necessary because this guy had already blamed Coulson for all of he had found a way to rationalize blaming Coulson for basically everything that's happened to Earth since Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool origin story, bro.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a
it
great
made
line.
for
That was a
it made
great
for a
line.
wonderful one-liner, and I did love the callback to the 084 And this, mission being so unassuming for Coulson, having gone through so much that he doesn't even remember what the 084 was, or give a crap about the random red shirt who, I don't know, got beat up by May that one time. Who cares, I liked that, but, like, as far as, like, oh, you're the reason the rest of my unit was tortured and killed by our own country.
That's such a, okay, bad guy logic is never the best.
No.
But, like,
let
again,
alone racist, xenophobic bad guy logic.
This is, again, like, why I was down from this episode was, like, they built up the Superior. They gave him a code name, hid his identity. They didn't just say our boss. Like, they could have just, like, let him be Ivanov or whatever, and, like, this wouldn't have been an issue. But the fact that they gave him a code name, the fact that they hid him for so long and, like, teased us with, like, who is the Superior?
And again, it's just some Russian guy, and it's just some red shirt.
And the speech from Coulson was funny, but not enough for the 5-6 episodes that we've been spending building to this moment when he has this showdown with this guy, and he's like, you're just a red shirt, and we're like, yeah, you're just a red shirt. Your beef with Coulson, I sort of wish they didn't have that. Like, his beef with the Inhumans is way more interesting than his beef with Coulson.
The Watchdogs seem to have, like, whatever they were, it doesn't exist anymore. And I really liked just, like, the xenophobic Watchdogs doing false flag operations, trying to make it look like, Inhumans were attacking people.
That's scary. That's also very real in life. Like, people are
terrifying.
Crazy.
People will. People will justify their actions in really weird, roundabout, contradicting ways.
This whole Coulson thing felt like a way to get them in the same room together. And it just feels like that there's a better way to do that. I did like, the Coulson speech was good, and also when he and Daisy confront each other, when Daisy says his line to him,
that was
and
great.
He repeats Coulson's line to her. That was fantastic when she's like, I've been waiting a long time for this.
And Coulson's just like, Coulson out.
Yeah, Coulson pieces out.
Like, that's the difference. I think this episode was very, like, well written in terms of, like, the episode itself. But
it's just these story beats.
As it's going through, like, across this half of the season, just isn't there for me.
Especially with LMDs, because when we first started talking about LMDs last season, it was really exciting because it's very much a the 1950s movie, The Thing, or the 80s movie if you're me, and you have a preference where somebody in the room is the enemy and you have no idea
it's not
who.
50s one at all.
50s movie doesn't have that at all. It's about a giant carrot. That's not an exaggeration.
If you want to know more, check out Sci-Fi Weekly on Popcorn Talk for The Thing versus The Thing versus The Thing.
We reviewed all Thing movies. Thing from Outer Space, The Thing 1980s, and then the Thing sequel, which was called The Thing.
Which
prequel.
is just confusing.
Prequel sequel.
Yeah, it's a prequel. It was just confusing. People really just want to confuse you.
Plugs
Anyway.
like Phil Coulson's hair plugs.
I will give a little bit of justification for the Superior being just a red shirt. I will give it this because something I found really fascinating about, I feel like they're trying to echo what happened in Marvel's Civil War, last year. Because the antagonist in that one, spoilers if you haven't seen it, although if you're watching this show, you've probably seen it.
If you haven't, why?
Also, we probably already spoiled it for you anyway.
We did.
But the main,
a bunch of times.
The bad guy in that one was an operative, to say the least. He was definitely a mercenary and a killer. But at the end of the day, he was just a normal guy who was determined to accomplish his goal. And it was just his skills and his knowledge and his, I said, determination to accomplish his goal. And and he was very successful.
But that was the thing, like, he had that singular goal. It wasn't like his goal was to
It's not like his goal kept changing.
To destroy Tony Stark and also he doesn't want anyone to drive hybrids. Like, he had one goal, and he got that goal.
It was to tear apart the Avengers.
Yeah.
And yeah, he accomplished it. I feel like even that's what they're trying to do with the Superior, is they want to make this guy who's been built up to be this big mysterious thing just a guy. And because it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they want to do it in a little bit more comedic way. Which is why we get some of the great lines. And again, this is also a misdirect too, because the real big bad of this particular arc is Ada,
which I love.
You know,
I love that. I love that the Superior, and it would have been so much more satisfying if he had been given more power and like earned that Superior moniker. If in the end it was like, oh, he isn't even the bad. Like Ada and Radcliffe he's been a part of their machinations this entire time and had no idea.
Oh, if he was an LMD?
If he was an LMD, or like I like that he's just like some dude that Ada and Radcliffe are using now.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. It would have been so much more satisfying if he was something bigger than that.
I would have loved if that had turned out to be the case, like from the get-go. If it turned out like they got to the Superior and like he's like, yeah, I'm in charge, and they're Radcliffe like, and Ada are behind the scenes, like Wizard of Ozing it, like, no, you're not. And I like that that's where it's gonna go, but I would have liked if it just had been there already.
I mean, I do appreciate the build-up for sure.
Yeah, and I liked his story about his father. It was like, that's good character development.
That's good writing too.
Like to hear his views on what being superior means, or having, you know, privilege to him, and like that seeing his father try and become the thing that he hates, and like grovel to it, like that is really good character development. I like that. I liked everything with him and Mace. I thought it was really good for both characters.
Robo Mace, but we'll get to that.
Well, it hadn't been yet.
Not yet.
I don't know.
Well, who is it for then?
He's okay, so let me map this out. I'm pretty sure, I don't know when, but at some point, and this is just me trying to make sense of the way things are presented to us by the end of the episode, I'm pretty sure that the mace that the mace that got beaten and everything like that guy was an LMD. I think at some point, either right after we're introduced to him at the start of this episode, or even before, he gets swapped out. And the reason I say that is because Ada kept giving him really weird looks. Like anytime the Superior was torturing him, she got these really weird looks, and I'm like, oh gosh, no, let's not get the LMD fascinated with the concept of pain and torture. Like that's a route I don't want to go down. But at one point when he's getting beaten, she actually looks really satisfied when he's getting beaten up by the four guys. And at first I was like, oh gosh, like Ada's getting off on like humans getting beaten. That is not a good thing. But she's happy. She's expressing those emotions of happiness because everything's going according to their plan. So I'm thinking that guy that was getting beat up was actually already an LMD.
Well, I'm thinking the guy who got beat up is not an LMD, but I don't know who it would be for. Like, why?
Just fooling the Superior.
But like, why as a show would you show that if it's not to show the character of Mace? Like, we got a lot of Mace character development.
And again, it was great character development.
But if it's Robo Mace, then none of it matters. Then that would be really frustrating. Because it's not Mace, it's just some like programmed Mace.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was basically like Mac and Coulson got in there, got Mace, and some point after that.
At one point after that, when they're trying to get back with everybody else, the three of them get jumped, and all three of them get replaced. That works too.
Yeah, I think so. Because again, like I love the character development of Mace, like breaking out of his cell. Like going in, being clearly outnumbered, says, "Are you the leader of this organization?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, then by the power invested in me by S.H.I.E.L.D., I declare you under arrest." And it's like, he's like naked, outnumbered by people with guns.
He's barefoot. He doesn't have any superpowers.
But he's still Mace. Like he still has to do it.
Oh So cute. Mace. And yeah, that's something that I really appreciated about this episode. Regardless of whether it was Robo Mace or actual Mace, the stuff we got between the Superior and Mace was really good and really well written and really well acted too.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about how the Superior as a villain is kind of lackluster. But I think the performance from everybody in this episode was really well done, especially because lots of characters are kind of going through roller coasters.
Zach McGowan is doing a great job with what he's given for the Superior.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a
He
question.
can give a speech. He can definitely give a Russian speech.
Yeah.
I think it's real Mace and real Mac in that room, but Robo Coulson is the one who comes to save them.
And that's how they get taken down. I can see that.
Okay.
I see that.
I buy that too. I'd buy that too.
Guys, next week you're gonna come here and there's just gonna be newspapers with us like circling like
Basically,
clues,
red
the
string,
wall,
yeah, like
the wall that
The Superior
that the
had.
Superior left for Coulson. That's what we're gonna have in here on all of the walls
all
around
right.
our
So
studio.
if at 8:33 p.m.
Mac wasn't blinking. He didn't blink the entire time. He's a robot.
So that would mean that while Mac wasn't blinking, that Mace was on the floor getting robo-kicked by an LMD Russian.
All three of those Russians were LMDs too.
It makes so much sense. It's all connected. So yeah, the regardless of when they were switched out.
Yeah.
And that's something I do appreciate about this episode. Even though I feel like the Coulson angle was a little bit forced with the Superior's backstory, you gotta hand it to a guy who leaves an aesthetically pleasing string wall behind for someone, right?
Well, that was really good like art direction as well, because like this episode they really tried hard to paint him as a conspiracy theorist, and like that is like conspiracy theorist 101. Like, when you decide to be a conspiracy theorist, the first thing you do is buy a bunch of red string and newspaper and a cork board, and you're like, all right, this is my life now.
You fill up the ink cartridges in your printer because you're going to be printing out a lot of pictures.
And like even he said, like, if you look at it, like, Coulson's behind everything, man. He stands behind Tony Stark and letting the aliens in. Thor, man. Thor's an alien, man.
What did he say?
There's like a crazy conspiracy like logic to it. It's like, there's one man who has been there for all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually on Netflix, you're gonna have the exact same thing happen to Claire.
Yeah, sure.
Like, somebody's
She's
gonna
the
be
one.
like, everything is Claire.
Everything is tied to you.
Claire's Uatu the Watcher. Not Night Nurse.
Actually, yeah, the way the Superior put it, he's like, my unit died, to further Coulson's alien agenda.
Yeah, the alien agenda.
Literally the way he put it.
That was not a subtle kind of reference to the world outside S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, but I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. has always done that. It's just a lot more relevant now because of ties to Russia and such, but we won't get into that.
I mean, this episode was written and shot and edited a while ago. So
Exactly.
it's
One of those things where it's like, oh, the Russian bad guys, we've seen that a million times, and then it's suddenly super scary relevant.
We're back to the 70s in terms of who are our general bad guys.
Action movies are gonna get awesome again, folks.
It is terrifying. And also super exciting. Go ahead.
I really liked like everything with Ada this episode was really cool, and like, just even though we didn't get much of Radcliffe, I like that we're seeing that he's kind of become addicted to the framework, and that he's spending a lot of time in the framework. I assume with his ex-girlfriend, just cavorting around in their virtual. They're riding unicorns.
They're skipping through.
It's the dream sequence in Anchorman.
Yeah, they're just.
I know the one you're talking about.
I friggin' love you.
Yeah, it's they're riding unicorns, and they're
I
just
want to
like,
shout our love from a mountaintop.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're just in the framework doing whatever. And like Ada interrupts him. He's like, "How many times have I told you not to?" Oh, hello, Superior. Sure, whatever you want.
That is definitely somebody who's mad that their roommate ignored the sock on the door for sure.
Yeah.
You were about to say something.
Well,
Zach.
the chat is like, before we move away from the new LMD LMDs, because I do want to talk a while about like
Me too.
like Fitz and like the science of the
Yeah,
framework and
no,
all
we
that.
definitely
But
need to talk about
the
Fitz in this
LMD group,
episode for sure.
I feel like this is worth addressing because Captain Shock, who was it that asked this? Good guy asks, does Robo Daisy have her Inhuman powers? And I think the answer is pretty
Ooh.
clearly no.
Yeah, I would say no.
And like that, but I think that what that implies, because it would be so easy, like for all of them to identify Daisy as an LMD. I think that it's going to be apparent very, very quickly once the next episode gets going that these are not the people.
Well, Fitz and Simmons both know it's all four.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is that you can still artificially create a sonic wave device. So like she might not be Daisy and she might not have those superpowers, but they might have hooked her up with some enhancements that other LMDs don't get.
I just don't think we're gonna play.
I mean,
that
if you could
game
do
very
that,
long.
then I would do that with all my LMDs. To be
Exactly.
honest, I would give all my LMDs that power.
Like supersonic abilities.
Not to mention just like yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, also,
Damn.
also, I'd give me that power.
Yeah, absolutely. The only other thing I want to touch on before we talk about iTunes, in terms of that stuff, is I absolutely loved the knife fight between Daisy and the Superior. It was fantastically choreographed and it was great. And again, the dialogue was on point. Why the hell did she leave him?
Yeah.
That is sloppy spy work,
We
guys.
get at the end why they didn't bring him on the sub, because we were all like, "You're not gonna go back and get the Superior."
He's the bad guy.
But like we get that, and it's eventually justified because those are LMDs.
But we don't know why Daisy leaves him in the first place.
Yeah, I can only imagine that it's because
She thought he
she's
was
like
dead.
got other stuff to do.
She's like, he's incapacitated. There are two options. He's either incapacitated and she's like, I'll get him later. No big. We got this.
Except it's literally the guy she has been fighting this entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is the guy who represents the watchdogs. Like the fact that Daisy doesn't like either double tap him and kill him, which
For sure.
which early this season Daisy would have done, or you know, at least handcuffs him and says something snarky to him as she is handcuffing him and making sure she gets justice, is like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
and
You
it's
give him a
frustrating.
snappy one-liner while you handcuff him to something, literally anything.
And it's frustrating as a viewer because it makes it feel like the writers don't respect
Yeah.
your intelligence.
The only other excuse I can sort of make for it is that at this point she's already an LMD, and yes. But that's not satisfying either.
Also, why
because
would an LMD be fighting the Superior?
to incapacitate him because he's just a pawn,
But
and also
there's no
he's a
reason
jerk.
for that. Like,
He's a jerk.
there'd be no reason for it.
He called her filth, though.
Yeah.
Ada's like, I'm gonna get you.
Yeah,
but
he
Ada could do it.
insulted her to her face, but she's not that type of person. Remember, she doesn't have emotions, so she's radical.
Definitely not at all. Definitely no emotions as she
No
clings
emotions
to the
here.
necklace of
Yeah.
her replica person.
Fine,
Yeah.
it's fine. Everything's
And repeats his nasty thing back at him.
Yeah.
And basically like spits on his face.
Yeah, when she says, you know, even filth has a purpose.
Ooh.
I was like, oh man.
That was a robo mic drop, is
Yeah.
what that was.
Like
So-
if she had saliva, she would have spit on him.
yeah, she would have stood back up and spit at him. It would have been great.
She just takes an eyedropper and just does that.
Oh man.
But that is a possibility, like I said. But that's not satisfying either,
Also,
because
then
this
that's really-
showdown between Daisy and the Superior really doesn't amount to anything.
Yeah, that's again bad storytelling.
think
If it was an
basi-
LMD fighting, she had to
Yeah.
have been replaced afterwards. And I believe when Fitz and Simmons are talking about the timeline, they even talk about how they hear the end of her fight, and then there is a long period of time when they aren't communicating.
Yeah.
So I think that means that's when the switch was.
Yeah, during that time when all communications were down.
Yeah.
That's what makes the most sense. Otherwise, your head starts to spin with, at what point was this person replaced with a robot duplicate?
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to get to the rest of this episode.
Pumpkin thinks that Ada wants to turn the superior into RoboCop.
Murphy.
I mean, how great would that be for somebody who prides himself so much on his own perfection in his own humanity and like in his physical prowess, being against his will turned into an enhanced being? That's karma.
I mean, it's like Nitro from last week's episode.
Yeah, exactly.
It's worth it if we get a your move, creep.
All right, real quick. Shout out to some people from iTunes.
Absolutely.
Guys, thank you for going on and rating us. So I'm looking at the
iTunes
numbers
from this week.
We have so far we have 630
Which
ratings.
is really impressive.
That's
Thank
pretty
you
great.
all.
480 reviews, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is
So
amazing.
here's what I'll say. If
Yes.
we get to 500 reviews, not just ratings, but reviews.
Written out reviews.
Yeah. By the end of the season, and we get to, well, actually, it would get us there. I was going to say to 650 ratings, but like literally, we have 629, so it would be one more rating than review. But like, yeah, so 21 more reviews.
Yeah.
We will do some weird.
We'll write some fanfic.
We'll do a sketch.
Which do we say we would write?
What? Well, I mean, everything we do is erotic, so it would just be.
Yep.
Was that it? Was that it? Oh, there it is.
I put it in the board. Now I'm reaping what I sow. No, I mean, who did we say was gonna get? Was it May and Coulson?
I mean, I think we'd use the whole crew.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So yes, guys, that's what we will do. But in the meantime,
So now, with this still going, I guess, let's talk to let's shout
it
out
is
some
Valentine's
people.
Day.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day, A Fool ZZ1. Happy Valentine's Day, Shield Fan 99. Guppy 66. If you swap the numbers in each of those ones, you can double up. I'll let you figure out why. Luke Cage Jr. Serpentina Lynn. Thank you. Staven for life. I don't know what that means.
Hey man, Staven for
Staven.
life.
K Cubs Bulls 5. Some of them are real hard to say. Oh boy. And Ether, is it Aether or Ether? Aether 3684 2.
Well, thank you guys.
That's almost an 840 in there.
No, 84,
An 084, I mean.
Well, again, thank you guys so much for going to iTunes, rating, and subscribing, and leaving comments. It honestly means the world to us, and it is the best way to let our producers know that you like the show that we're putting on. It helps keep the lights on in this very sweltering studio, and it keeps us at these desks here.
They call you Quack. We'll continue. We'll be the people that the Koenig brothers are talking about.
It'll be great.
So yeah, guys, 20 more. I feel
of-
like there were 7 this week, so you can do it.
Speaking
pretty
of,
easy.
do you guys think Tehran is going to agree to this?
I think he's game. I think he'll say hilarious after each bit, but he will be game.
Haywood wants Megan to read it. No, we're gonna read our own work.
no.
Excuse me.
Megan can read a
I'm gonna
roll.
be-
Megan
I
can
want to
team
roll
read.
in this.
It'll be
for
a
sure.
team read for sure.
Besides, yes.
Tehran will have no part in this at all.
Tehran will read stage directions.
He'll be like, I don't know what you guys did or promised to do
I
while I
leave you
was
alone
gone.
for 1 week,
Yeah.
and everything goes off the rails.
Look, we sang last season.
We did.
It was amazing. Anyway, guys, let's get this train back on track. So we were talking about... No, don't get me wrong. I want keep those creative juices rolling.
It's really hot in here.
Really is. So, yes, we were talking about Fitz and Simmons in this episode.
Hold on. No Skyward Jason Clark. No.
None of that.
Bad.
What, we get a Ward mention? Because he's not going to be in our fanfic.
He's still gonna be
Dead.
Dead.
Real dead.
Super dead.
Dead as a doornail octopus monster.
In our AU, he is still dead. Maybe other people can come back, though. Ross can come back. I loved her. She was great. Anyway, so yes, to get back, Fitz and Simmons.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys a little bit about Mac when we see him, at the beginning of this episode, when everybody's kind of getting exposed to the framework, because I actually really liked the way the framework, it's not the framework necessarily when we're introduced to it at the beginning of the episode. It's the training program that Fitz was working on with Radcliffe that became kind of the template for the framework.
It's the Matrix. Like, it's the I know Kung Fu.
Mac is the
Matrix.
You created the Matrix, and then it turned into Brain Scan.
Yeah.
Which, again, I absolutely loved the fight we got with Coulson and Daisy at the very beginning. The episode started with Coulson punching Daisy in the face with what I thought was his robot hand. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, how did he not, cave in her
I was
face?
like, damn, are we going through, a Daisy lost some of her training while she was away, plot story here?
Well, I actually really like, it's not super subtle, but I like the implication where he's like, I can feel it.
He's like, wow, because he can feel his hand again.
Because that's the hand he can't feel.
They did a good job tricking, because, he was able to say that, but we assumed he was talking about his fake hand.
Yeah, again.
So it read for both reasons.
Yeah, I assumed he was talking about some enhancement that he had gotten, some software upgrade or something. But yeah, it was a really great setup. And then when we have Mac in the framework later on, all of a sudden, and granted, there's been a lot of build up to this, but Mac is really unusually harsh on Fitz at the beginning of this episode, and I feel like it's just meant to trigger his guilt trip. It's just meant to sort of set up this sense of guilt that Fitz has about his role in everything leading up to 4 LMDs running loose around the compound.
Mac is laying
5
the
if you count
Catholic
May.
guilt heavy on Fitz.
Yeah. Was this out of the blue? Was it undeserving, or does it make sense?
Absolutely undeserving. I don't know that
It feels like last week when we had him and Coulson interact, where it feels like they're using Mac as a moral high ground as his character, and they're just using him to kind of counteract the fact that they're doing super science and super spy stuff.
And Coulson's like, I gotta shake down that lady who, she's terminally ill, but I gotta get answers to save our friend. And Mac's like, that's wrong. And Fitz is like, I gotta fix this science thing to help save our friend. And Mac's like, that's wrong.
And I don't think that's necessarily out of character for Mac to question this stuff. Remember, he wasn't an agent when we met him. He was
he's a mechanic.
He's a mechanic.
Yeah. And he got possessed by an alien.
Yeah, I get his fear of these things. That makes sense. I do think it is absolutely unfair and undeserving to try to blame Fitz for what his things have been used. Fitz makes a good point. You can't blame science for when people misuse it.
Yeah.
Somebody made a knife to cut their meat with. That doesn't mean that they're to blame when somebody
uses
stabbed.
it for stabbing.
It works both ways as well. Most modern anesthesiology we get from the Nazis, because of their terrible tests on pain. We know what we know about pain because of them, so it works both ways.
Ooh.
Yeah.
No one talks about that, though.
I mean, lots of the things that we use in everyday life are created as part of a war effort.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we don't it's not really fun to talk about, but a lot of scientific advances come from warfare.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways. Look, good things turn bad and bad things turn good. and it's not fair to blame Fitz, who's trying to do good and use his knowledge. Like, I don't like the blaming the scientist plot line.
Well, and not to mention that, like, this is seemingly a little hypocritical from the guy who uses science to combine a shotgun and an axe. Granted, that's not like super complicated science, but it is using his engineering skills.
The science, he took the DNA of an axe and a shotgun.
He spliced them. He put them in the fly machine, and they
Fitz is
came
like,
out.
no man is meant to have that kind of power.
You're playing God by combining a shotgun
Yeah,
and an axe.
Fitz is, I was about to say Fitz is over his shoulder, but Fitz is under his shoulder. Like, you can't do this, Matt.
He puts a shotgun and an axe on a bed, and he raises it up, and lightning strikes it, and it comes down.
Back down, and it's fused to the gun.
Which brain did you put in the shotgun axe? Which one was it? Abby Normal.
Abby's someone. It's not important right now.
somebody.
But I do. Obviously, Mac serves a very great function as the moral center of.
Science and more duct tape. In the chat.
That's very true.
That's true.
But Mac
The
does.
dark duct tape.
Mac does act as the moral center of the group
Yeah.
on a number of occasions, and you can always count on him to be the one who will say the Emperor has no clothes when they are ready to do something very morally questionable. Like, absolutely, you can always count on him to be the one to go, guys, this is messed up. This is really messed up. I gotta rethink like my career path here. I don't know. But he always sticks with them as well. So it did seem a little weird that he was so belligerent about it. I feel like him saying the line between scientist and mad scientist, that makes sense to me. But like the blaming was what felt a little off.
Yeah.
That being said, though, it does trigger a very interesting discussion between Fitz and Gemma
I thought it
in
was a
terms
great
of his
discussion, yeah.
actual role in what has been created. Because, yeah, part of the reason why Radcliffe was able to advance so far is because of Fitz's help. Not only as a scientist, but it was also Fitz's very, like... Granted, May was more of the one who handed him the Darkhold, but Fitz was very, very dead set on getting back to the real world when they were in kind of the shadow dimension sort of thing. He was so determined to get back to Gemma that he was like, hey, Ada, read the Darkhold because we have to get home.
Yeah.
And that's not something that they talk about here, but it's definitely something that's present in his mind. You can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I think this was a good episode to kind of reinforce their relationship. I liked her telling him, like, don't listen to Mac. Like, you're a good person, and it doesn't matter what people use your science for. You're trying to help people.
And if you use your brain to set things right, then that's what matters.
I was just thinking about how we can only be for sure that Gemma is not an LMD.
Yeah.
But not Fitz.
I spent
Really?
that entire sequence leading up to the reveal of all four of them being LMDs, expecting him to be the LMD.
Just because what we see in the episode is Gemma chasing after Ada by herself. Like, the only person present is the camera. And the viewer, and her going like, crap, the Ada just left. So she's not doing a performance for anyone.
Yeah.
There's no one there to see it. But we don't know where Fitz was that entire time, as well as we don't know where anyone else was.
Yeah, and Davy sort of acts as her alibi too.
Yeah.
Because like I highly doubt they have an LMD of like random Shield
For
intern number
Davis.
10. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like we're safe to assume that Gemma is a real person. That entire scene leading up to the reveal with Fitz kind of hovering around her and being like, oh, like what? I wonder what triggered it. Like, I feel like this scene was framed like to cast suspicion on him, and maybe that was part of how surprising it's supposed to be that all four people who came in were LMDs.
We were guessing like, oh, maybe they're in the framework.
Yeah.
Maybe when everything went dark, that like they got abducted and like are in the framework and have been forced to forget.
Well, and there's nothing to say that Fitz isn't actually an LMD right now.
No, there's not. The timeline lines up. Like Davis is like, you're right. They wouldn't have had like an LMD ready for Davis. They probably had an LMD ready for Fitz and Simmons, but like they couldn't get Simmons. I could absolutely be the twist. Should we just get into like some predictions?
Yeah, let's go ahead and delve into predictions, since we're going to be talking about where we think this episode is going.
Your
in the next one.
AfterBuzz TV.
Which, by the way, as Jesse pointed out, looks like it's the great setup to a horror movie with killer robots, and it makes me so happy.
Yeah, I really like the plot idea that Fitz and Simmons and maybe like 3 or 4 other people are the only humans left in S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And like everything else is a LMD is really interesting and cool. I've got a prediction. In one of the X-Men comics, they were dealing with a similar thing where they were fighting robots that were replacing people, and who comes in to save them but Deathlock, who is also who's also a robot, but a superior robot because he's made for murdering. And it's like Deathlock on LMD action.
J. August Richards.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things we keep asking. It's like, through all of this stuff that S.H.I.E.L.D's been through,
Where is Deathlock?
Yeah.
I know he wants to be a good dad, but is he really taking all that time to be at home?
The truth is, like, we have not yet been renewed for season 5. And if this is going to be the wrap up, I really hope it's not.
Me
But
too.
If it's going to be, we better get Deathlock in there to book
Yes,
it, book
as a bookend
Yeah.
for sure. And I understand why a lot of people are want Brett Dalton to come back. Some people have a fascination with Ward. I get it.
No!
I disagree with it, but I get it because he's one of the original cast members. So it's always sad. So I understand people wanting him to come back, but he needs to not.
I want Hunter and Bobby back as
Yes,
well.
absolutely.
Which we don't have to go to news and gossip for this, but like it was like pretty much confirmed that they are not coming back.
Yeah.
this season.
That's heartbreaking.
I think they maybe thought about it for a little while and were like looking for a way to bring them back, but it just would have been too messy.
Yeah.
Like they made this whole stink about how they had to be publicly disavowed and shamed, and it's like, and now S.H.I.E.L.D. is public, so it was just like it sucks because they were like both such fantastic characters.
That being said, they could very well come back like somewhere down the line for like a one shot of like, we are here to save your guys' butts this one time. None of you saw us. Bye.
No, but I don't even want that.
Yeah.
Like I would step on what was a very beautiful out
goodbye
for them.
Yeah.
If they're back, I want them back.
Yeah.
Because they were
back to
good.
stay.
Not just because like they were fun characters. They were great characters, and their emotions played throughout multiple episodes and over the course of a season was phenomenal. And it's something that is missing a little bit from this half season.
It also like gave us a dynamic where it's like anytime there's like an action sequence, it's not just Daisy and May, like because those are really your only, and Mac sometimes, like
and
those
Coulson sometimes.
yeah, like those are your only heavies. Like if you've got Bobby and Hunter, like that
Action
now
for days,
gives you like different like groupings that you can do and like different like setups.
Because Daisy, in these last few episodes, like usually when there's been an act, and May is on the sidelines right now, so that definitely narrows our pool. Anyway, I think
it
go ahead.
was interesting. Oh, so no,
Go ahead.
I was going to change topics a little bit.
In terms of prediction, I would really love it if I like the idea of Fitz actually being an LMD as well, so Gemma's the only one. But even if he's not an LMD, I love the idea of the two of the couple being the ones that have to ward off this robot invasion. It's a very horror movie, and I would be okay with Gemma being a final girl in this scenario.
Sure.
That being said, as far as like the whole LMD thing being wrapped up, I would really like it if somebody magical came in to kind of take the dark hold away and kind of set things right. Whether
we did just cast Tina Minoru for the Runaways.
That's true.
that would be cool. It would also be cool if, because this was found in Johnny Blaze's, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Johnny Blaze. This was found in like his basement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if he came back and been like, "Hey, quit rooting around in my stuff," and just took the Darkhold and left?
I mean, there's
Well,
no
he
way
still
we
has
get...
all the knowledge. Last thing before we wrap up, I just wanted to like mention I really love where this is going. I think we're going to see some very interesting stuff between Robo May and Robo Coulson, because they both theoretically have the memory sets of their originals. So are they going to have a Robo romance?
An interface.
But there's a lot of like interesting justification for that, like in science fiction and AI stuff. Like, could this be a thing where like there at the end there's like an LMD set and a real life set, and they're like, the LMDs are just like, we're gonna go off into the sunset and be happy.
They're running 50 miles an hour.
And that's the justification for the actual couple in the show to not get together. Be like, it worked out somewhere. Doctor Who, I'm looking in your direction. The only other thing I want to say before we wrap up is Radcliffe looks like he's completely losing his handle on the situation. It looks like there's no more pretense. Ada is taking charge of like the whole thing, because it looks like all of this went away, went through without his consent, because he's spending all of his time in the framework hanging out, cavorting and stuff. So that's my only other prediction, is that she's going to set him aside.
She does confirm with him. She says like all the heads of S.H.I.E.L.D. have been replaced with LMDs in her ear, so he at least was somewhat aware of it.
Semi-aware, but like again, he's always concerned about the potential loss of life that doesn't really matter to her. Nope. If she gets results in the end. So I feel like he's, like I said, gonna lose his grasp on the situation at last. So, do we have any final thoughts? No? Okay. Well, again, thank you all so much for tuning in to watch us tonight and staying up late. Jesse, where can people go if they want to find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JessKlein1. That's JessKlein, the number 1. You can also see sketches that I write and act in at Haymaker Comedy at youtube.com.
Hey guys, Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ThatZachWilson. You can see Jesse and me on Sundays on Sci-Fi Weekly. You can see me live if you're in the Los Angeles area at the Pack Theater with my sketch team Turncoat. We've also been doing some online stuff as well. I've got a new sketch that I'm working on. Stay tuned, because it's nerdy.
And guys, get to brainstorming for that erotic fan fiction live read. That's going to be so much fun. Guys, don't forget to follow Tehran on the social media atmosphere at I am Tehran. And you guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at The Menguin. That's TheMenguin. I'm also on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz, and I write articles for the movie Chick. That's Chick with 2 Ks. Be sure to check those out. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you all next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.